You're listening to Strange by Nature, your guide to the strange, weird, unbelievable, and improbable wonders of the natural world.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here today. I am Kirk Mona, and I am joined today by Rachel Ginza and Victoria Thompson. We are all professional naturalists who together have scoured the world for weird and wonderful wonders just to please your mammalian brain's desire for novelty. Isn't that nice? Let's do this. Well, welcome, everybody. And Rachel and Victoria, I have something special for you. If you look in your inboxes, I emailed you a photo I'd like you to take a look at.
All right. I don't like it when you send things, Kirk.
Oh, wow. It's like an animal volcano.
Right. I want you to try your best to describe this for listeners. And I ahead of time, I just want to say, this is going to be challenging. So I'm really curious to see how you describe this for people. Go ahead.
All right. Hold on.
I'll give it a shot.
Okay,
so
go for
I believe this is some sort of sea slug.
Okay.
And you can see most of the slug's body. It has its little sluggy face, and it's kind of a mottled brown and white color, like a little bit of texture on it. But then erupting out of its back, there is this cloud of red.
What is this?
It looks like a special effect in a movie where there's like magic coming out of somebody's head or something.
I will say the body kind of reminds me of like a stegosaurus with like the plates sticking out.
I can see that.
It looks like, it looks very blood-like in a lot of ways, like blood just gooping into the water and sort of diffusing.
You mean the stuff coming out of the top or the animal itself?
The stuff coming out of the top.
Okay, good.
The animal itself is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of cute in its own
cute.
way.
Otherwise,
to me,
it looks like a cauliflower a bit.
Yeah.
I kind of think for viewers, it looks almost a little bit like a taco. If you can picture a taco.
Oh, yeah. I could. Yeah. It has the same coloration of like a hard shell taco.
Yeah. Now there's a few little sort of appendages sticking off the taco, which is a little weird. But generally, it's kind of taco colored
with like a beet colored something coming out of it. You messed up.
I guess a smoking taco or something. Yeah.
Or maybe it's all the fillings coming out as you drop the taco and you're just so sad.
Sure.
If it's filled with blood, yeah.
Well, what you are looking at is a Phagiomimicry californica, otherwise known as...
Kirk, I'm going to stop you right there. It's a Phagiomimicry.
A Phagiomimicry?
It's not just me!
I took a chance. I actually didn't check on the pronunciation of this one. So a Phagiomimicry californica. And this one is otherwise known as the California sea hare. Now, I should point out that's Hare, the furry members of the order Lagomorphia, or Lagomorpha, not Hair, the 1968 Broadway hit rock musical. Just so we're clear which hare we're talking about.
Thanks for that.
You're welcome. This is actually kind of a bit of a throwback to Rachel's topic of the sea butterfly, where a pelagic animal is named after a more familiar land-based animal.
Woo!
And once again, the name is just the worst failure of imagination.
They could have done so much more.
Or perhaps, because they didn't have tacos back then. I mean, perhaps it's a sign of an overactive imagination, because no one would ever confuse this for a hare.
Wait, someone thought this looked like a hare? It absolutely does not.
No, I guess here's the thing. I'm going to let scientists off the hook, because they did not name this species. It has been known since way back when. That's an official time, way back when. We actually get the name sea hare as a direct translation of the Latin name, Lepus marinus. I'm sure I said that wrong. So I'm going to blame the ancient Greeks on this one.
All right.
They called it a sea hare. I guess it's kind of obscured in the photo I showed you guys, but they have sometimes these two little things that stick up that look kind of like ears. And so,
okay.
The way it's bunched up, you
Okay.
could kind of
It had
imagine
like
like the
two
front legs and
little.
back legs of a hare, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had two little like
It's weak.
tube thing. It had like four tubes at the front, from what we could see.
Very weak. Look, sea hares, in spite of having an incredibly stupid name, are an important part of my topic this week because they are mimics. And last week, my topic was
Ooh.
mimicry. Now, I mentioned in passing last week that I was only addressing the main forms of mimicry, but there were many others out there. And the sea hare is an amazing example of one of them. So even if you haven't yet looked one up or seen a photo that we'll try to post on social
Hmm.
media, just from the amazing description, you can probably guess that what they're mimicking is not a hare,
Is it a
right?
taco?
It's also not a taco. The type of mimicry they employ is completely bizarre and wonderful, and I love it. And the strange planet we live on, I love so very much because this exists. Sea hares employ phagiomimicry. Any
Okay.
guesses what that means?
Phagio. I feel like this is ringing a bell, but it's not coming to me.
Right.
Phagiomimicry.
Can you think of anywhere that that word phagio or phage is used?
Well, there's like
Pha-
phages that kill
Yeah.
viral phages that kill bacteria.
Mm-hmm.
Good, yeah. You got a bacteriophage,
Yeah.
which is another name for a virus that attacks bacteria. That's good. That's kind of related. Have you heard of a coprophage?
No.
Oh, right. Like
What is that?
that's an animal that eats its own poop.
There you go. So phage means to eat. It comes from Latin, and it basically means to eat. So I think like a bacteriophage virus, the idea is that they're like eating viruses or eating bacteria. They're
Okay.
not, but I think that's kind of where that they get that.
Okay.
Well, I mean, hares are coprophages. So
They are, which is kind of cool. So what is phagiomimicry though?
Yeah.
It's not it's not mimicking eating poop. It's not that.
It's not
So
mimicking
the
eating food.
no eating poop. I said
Oh,
poop,
right.
Rachel, poop.
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 Got it.
The clue is the colorful cloud around the sea hare in the photo I sent you. That is ink, much like a squid would use as defense.
Okay.
If you can squirt colorful ink into the water and obscure the vision of your predator, that's very useful. Um, but that's only part of what's going on. The sea hare has taken this to the extreme. So there's actually two different glands that are involved here. One is pretty much your standard ink gland, which a number of species have, that produces sort of the cloud of ink, and I think some of the color also comes from that. But they have another gland called the opaline gland, which releases a completely different kind of ink. And the ink from the opaline gland contains amino acids like lysine and arginine. And what this does is when that's mixed into this cloud and the predator kind of goes into this ink cloud, it basically tricks the predator into thinking that the ink itself is an edible food source.
What?
Oh,
So those two amino acids combined are a signal to the predators that like, oh, this is food.
huh.
And it's not food. It is a cloud of ink. So you can see that would be incredibly confusing to the prey because
Yeah.
it's basically thinking that that this cloud that it's in is food, but it can't find any actual food. But its sensory system is telling it, no, no, you are surrounded by food. It's right here, and there's actually no food to be had. It's just a cloud of ink.
That sounds incredibly frustrating.
Oh, that sounds so. It's like if someone put that pizza down in front of you and you're like, it's right there. I can see it. But like you can't find it, even though you can see it there and you know you can smell it and you know
Uh-huh.
it's there. But it's like maybe you pick it up and you put it in your mouth and you're like, there's no pizza here.
It's
That's kind of what they're experiencing.
Is it kind of like also where you go down, your fridge is full of food, and whatever you want to eat isn't actually there, but you have a bunch of food? Have you ever gone
Maybe.
through that?
Yeah, yeah, I've had that. Yeah, yeah.
Where it's like you want
kinda-
something specific and you don't quite know what it is.
Well, it's it's definitely if you're surrounded in this cloud, it'd be confusing, right? But that would be tricky enough. But there's also some interesting other stuff going on. Some chemistry takes place. There's some other chemicals that are released, and they kind of combine to form this new compound and link together. And the new compound is a feeding deterrent that makes the predator not want to feed, which is very contradictory from being in a cloud of all the stuff you think is food. So there's two very contradictory things, but this actual compound is a feeding deterrent and makes the animal not want to eat. And whereas I really don't like the name sea hare, I love what the scientists called this compound. They call it escapin,
That's so great.
which is just awesome.
Perfect. Amazing.
Bravo.
They did
bravo.
a great job.
So imagine the confusion of the predator here. They're going in for the attack when suddenly they can't see anything, and then their sensory system gets completely overwhelmed by all these chemicals. They sense that they're surrounded by food, but simultaneously they are repulsed at the thought of eating or something like that. You know, they're not wanting to eat. And in all this confusion, the sea hare is able to escape. So this is called phagiomimicry because the ink actually mimics food. And the sudden appearance of what the animal detects as food all around it is part of why they are so overwhelmed, which is just so cool.
That is
I
really
do have a
cool.
fun
Crazy,
bonus fact
yeah.
for you as well. Since we talked about sea hares, my main topic here was the phagiomimicry. But if predators somehow do locate the actual sea hare in all of this, they can also release a slime much like a hagfish. So phagiomimicry isn't the only trick they know. They are a pretty cool animal with a lot of ways to survive in the ocean.
I also have a bonus factoid,
Okay, go for
which
it.
is that my mother had a career in neuroscience, and some of her early work was actually done on a plisia. They're a
Really?
model animal in neuroscience research because they have very large neurons that are very well
Exactly,
matched to
yeah.
specific functions in the body.
Yeah, I had read that they're one of the species that's been studied a lot for that exact reason. That's really cool that you have that personal connection to that.
And that is
That's
why I
so
knew how to pronounce a
fun.
plisia.
Right. I did not do that correctly. Thank you for correcting me. Well, we are going to go to a break, and when we are back, Rachel is going to be up, and I hope she gets to pronounce some words that we can, poke holes in.
No.
We'll find out.
Kirk here with a quick note. If you're enjoying the show, be sure to subscribe and leave a 5-star review. It helps other lovers of the strange find our show. You can also find and follow us on social media. Search for Strange by Nature Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or come visit us at strangebynaturepodcast.com. We'll see you there. Now, back to the show.
So for my topic this week, I'm gonna take a little detour. So one of my favorite feel-good movies is The Princess Bride.
Oh,
Wow.
I love it. Such a great movie.
It's such a great movie.
That
It has-
is inconceivable that would be your favorite movie.
So it's full of many different iconic scenes and lines. What are some that come to mind? Iconic scenes that come to mind for
Wait. Is your topic this week iocane powder?
Is it
That would
the
be really
shrieking
cool.
eels?
The
Nope.
shrieking eel scene, yep.
Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh.
The resurrection pill.
Very
Yeah,
good.
I like the
Not quite.
think about the castle siege with the flaming robes.
What a good time. No, mine.
The pit of despair.
Ooh. I'm thinking of the fire swamp.
The fire
Oh
swamp.
yes. Home of the
where-
RUSs.
Home of the RUSs,
RUSs.
as well as where Buttercup gets
Oh, the lightning
sucked
sand.
down a hole. The lightning sand.
Are you doing quicksand?
I'm doing quicksand.
That's great.
Oh,
So-
a childhood favorite of any child who grew up,
Truly, I
Wow.
thought that it was going to be a much bigger issue than it actually is in like adult life or in real life.
Right, it's
But-
not really a thing
Not
that
really.
you
No.
run into.
But I thought I would need to know how to get out of quicksand. So
Of course.
quicksand, just as a fun overview. So quicksand is generally silt or sand or clay that's mixed in with a ton of water. The silt, sand or clay is microscopically dispersed within this water. So it's very widespread. And diffused, yes. It is technically a shear thinning non-Newtonian fluid.
Ooh.
Okay.
All right.
Which means
Makes sense.
that
I'm a nerd, so that makes sense to me, but explain
Right.
that to everybody else.
So that means that when it's undisturbed, it looks like it's a solid. It looks like it's completely flat, totally fine, solid ground. But when it's agitated, or there's even just less than 1% change in the stress, it'll cause the viscosity to dramatically decrease, which is what causes that suction. So it is pretty much like just the soil becomes liquefied and cannot support any weight whatsoever. So it can form in standing water. It can also form in upward flowing water, like springs.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was just going to ask, because if it's, my impression has been often that it was associated with like
With standing water.
with springs,
Mm-hmm.
like where there's that water coming up from below.
That
Exactly.
makes sense, I guess.
Yeah. So once that pressure changes, it actually triggers the liquefaction. And once that liquefaction happens, you're not as in trouble as you might think. So quicksand, generally speaking, if, for example, your foot is, you step into something that looks like it's solid and then all of a sudden it changes. To remove your foot, what happens is it causes sort of suction, but what you need to do is you need to press down enough to make it liquid again. So you actually sort of. The whole idea is you want to reintroduce enough water to liquefy the area, because what's happening is it's creating a suction. You're getting rid of a lot of the liquid. So if you have a speed, your foot has a speed of 0.01 meters per second, super slow, you would need the same force to remove your foot from the quicksand, the same force of lifting a car to get your foot out.
Oh dear.
Wow.
I was under the impression the best way to do it was to have a friend cut off a vine and hold on to it and dive head first in after you.
Truly.
That's what they did in The Princess Bride. That's what Wesley did. So I think that was
I think
the
Wesley
right method.
knows. I think lightning sand might be a slight difference. I think it has more
Okay,
with
good to know.
gas than anything else.
Oh, I bet it does. Good call.
Yeah. On the plus side, humans actually can't entirely sink into quicksand, just because of how high the density of the fluid is. You end up you're still
Floating?
stuck, but you end up floating on top of
It's
it.
like a buoyancy issue.
The human
Exactly.
body is less dense than the quicksand.
Exactly. Like aluminum will float on top of quicksand.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I know Mythbusters did a whole myth on how to get out of quicksand and what it would take, and they were pretty much floating on top of it. So,
Wow.
So where can I go to avoid quicksand, Rachel?
what a good
I mean, you can go
to avoid
anywhere.
it anywhere.
To avoid it. Your backyard, your
We've-
living room.
But
like-
if I want to
we
get
really
really
have it
close to quicksand but avoid it.
Oh, I see.
So generally it's found on the hollows of like the mouths at large rivers, along flat stretches, or like really big flat stretches of streams or beaches where like a lot of the water pools have become somewhat filled with sand. If you want, it's kind of like a bog.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to go around bogs, you'll find some quicksand. personally, I would say just avoid walking through it. They're not as common as as like cartoons and everything made people think. A lot of people
Right, that
also
was
think
just a
of
little
like
circle of quicksand in the middle
right
of
nowhere.
the trail, yeah.
Yeah. Generally speaking, it's most people will also equate it to like the tar pits. Following that would be a very similar interaction. There's also mud flats up in Alaska that act very similar to quicksand and have actually killed people because they don't get. It's not so much you get stuck, but you get stuck at the wrong tide and you can't get out before the tide comes in. All of a sudden,
I almost got stuck in the Everglades once.
mm-hmm.
When tide went out and we were in basically the middle of a mud flat, and we were canoeing through mud trying to get to the back to the channel.
Oof.
And I've never paddled so hard in my life. It was we made it. We made it. It would have been a long night with the mosquitoes had we not made it back to the channel.
Maybe just a little bit, yeah. But generally speaking, the biggest issue when it comes to quicksand is the drowning aspect of, like, it's enough water to potentially have you drown, or in case water is coming back in. It's usually, quicksand is generally something that is pretty temporary. So, which makes me very happy that I don't have to deal with it, but also kind of sad because I was fully prepared to get a very long stick to help pull myself out of these quicksand pits. I was ready.
Or, just bring a Wesley with you wherever you go.
Exactly. And that's what I got for you this week. When we return from our break, it's going to be Victoria.
Okay, I have an interesting story for you today about a woman named Joy Milne. She's a Scottish person. Okay. And when she was a teenager in Scotland, she met her husband, Les, and she'd always had a very keen sense of smell. And among other things, one of the things that appealed to her about Les was his personal smell. They got married.
Okay.
Yeah.
Weird thing to like about somebody or notice?
Well, there's this whole research about, smell compatibility between people who are attracted to each other that I'm not going to go into because it's not really relevant to my story today. But suffice to say, she liked his smell. They got married. They started careers in medicine. Joy is a nurse, Les is a doctor, and they had 3 kids. Very happy marriage. But one day, about 10 years in, Joy noticed that Les smelled different. He'd come home from work, and he had this kind of, she described it as a kind of a yeasty, musty smell. And she told him he needed to take a shower, which he did, but it did not help. And the smell kept lingering. And, she would tell him over and over again, day after day, he needed to shower better. Something was wrong with his hygiene. And it never helped. And, understandably, Les started to get a little annoyed because he couldn't smell it. Nobody else could smell it.
Right.
I'd be kind of irritated.
Yeah.
It'd be one thing if like he couldn't smell it. I would get that, but nobody else could as well, right?
Yeah, nobody else could smell it.
And your wife is just telling you, you smell, you really need to shower about more and better, and I'd be done. Like, I have. Stop.
That'd be a little tough.
Yeah. So, Joy eventually just decided she was going to have to live with this smell. As the years passed, however, Les's behavior also began to change. He had been a very even-tempered, kind of thoughtful guy, and he became a lot more moody and intolerant, and they started fighting, which they had never really done before. And then one night when Les was 45, this was about 10 years after she first noticed the smell difference, Joy woke up one night to find Les shaking her violently in bed and screaming at her. And he did not remember this in the morning. He was having a nightmare. He was not conscious of what he was doing. But, they were afraid he might have a brain tumor, so he went to the doctor. And he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So they muddled along for about 20 years. It kept getting more and more difficult. The disease is progressive. Finally, around 2013, they decided to attend a Parkinson's support group near where they lived. And when Joy walked into the room, suddenly this wave of smell hit her.
Oh my gosh.
No way.
Yes. The same smell she had first noticed decades ago when Les's personal scent changed. And in this room, she
Oh
also
my.
noticed that some people smelled more strongly than others.
That's
She was
crazy.
Yeah, totally crazy. And so she was thinking this over the whole meeting. And on their way home, she decided to tell us about this. And they both, him being a doctor, realized, the possible significance of
It's a
this.
big deal, yeah.
Yeah.
So if Parkinson's disease has a smell, and she had smelled it like 10 years before he had symptoms, or however long it was,
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
could this be, a possible way to detect early Parkinson's disease in people?
That'd
So,
be really interesting if it
yeah,
could.
they
And
decided.
can you train dogs?
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. Well, they decided to try to connect up with a Parkinson's researcher, and so they approached Tilo Kunath, who was at the University of Edinburgh. And at first, he pretty much dismissed Joy. Kind of,
Of
like,
course.
she's a crank, she can't smell Parkinson's disease. Come on. But a few months later, he was actually reading about cancer detecting dogs that were being trained, and he's like,
Right.
wonder if there's actually something there. So he got back in touch, and he came up with a test for her. He gave a bunch of people a plain white t-shirt to wear overnight, and half of them were Parkinson's patients and half of them were healthy volunteers. And he randomized the t-shirts, and he had her smell each one and rate not only if the person had Parkinson's disease, but what stage they were at. So was it early, middle, late? And
Wow.
Joy got every single one right, except for, she said that one of the control group, one of the non-Parkinson's t-shirts, was a Parkinson's t-shirt. Well, come to find, several months later, this guy,
Yep.
that one guy, comes up to Kunath and says, well, you better put me in the other group because I just got diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
That's
Oh, no
crazy. Oh
Oh.
my gosh.
Wow,
She
she's
can
got quite a
smell
nose.
it.
She has quite a nose. So they
How?
worked together for quite a few years, and in 2019 they published a paper together, I think with some other researchers, identifying several of the compounds that make up this smell. And other research is ongoing to try to use this information to create a skin-based early detection test for Parkinson's. And other researchers around the world have started working with Joy and have found that she can also smell tuberculosis, Alzheimer's disease, cancer,
What?
and diabetes.
What?
Yeah.
This is a human
Is she,
woman.
hold on. Did we
Is
miss
she a
part of the
mutant?
story where she's a dog?
I mean, she has a sense of smell that is, I don't know if it's equal to a
Outstanding.
dog's, but certainly
Ama-
for a human, outstanding.
Do her children have this? Can they smell it? Do they have insanely good noses?
I guess not. I mean, it wasn't mentioned. I feel like it would have been if they did. But
Oh
you
my
know,
gosh.
you've brought up dogs several
Tuberculosis
times.
and Alzheimer's?
Yeah, it's crazy. So you brought up dogs several times. Dogs have been and are being trained to detect various diseases, including some of the ones that Joy can smell, and also even possibly brain injuries. And the latest research out of Finland is COVID-19. You also have to wonder if there are other people out there who can smell as well as she can, but they just haven't been connected up to science or never kind of made the connections that she
Just
made.
don't realize why things smell weird to them, yeah.
Yes.
Right.
I wonder too, there's such a connection between smell and taste. If there's some people who, can
could taste it.
Maybe.
Like,
yeah, I mean, yes, it's actually the smell. It's not actually the tasting, but that they maybe think of themselves as, oh, foods taste kind of weird to me, and but it's just that they actually have a super. We talk about super tasters. You don't really hear about super smellers, but I wonder how often it's connected to your sense of smell.
Yeah, it's a good question. That's a good line of thought. And actually, smell has been used for hundreds of years, if not thousands, to detect some types of disease. So, like, for example, battlefield medics and surgeons could sniff out gangrene because it has a particular foul smell. If you smell kind of a fruity nail polish scent on somebody's breath, that's actually a sign of complication of diabetes, where your body actually produces acetone, which is the stuff in nail polish remover. And in fact, the urine of diabetics also has a sweet smell because it literally has sugar in it. And there's something called maple syrup urine disease, which is a metabolic disease. It's not great. But, these are scents that most humans can detect and learn to recognize. And what Joy Milne does and what dogs can do, obviously, is much rarer. And, this is ongoing research, and where it could really come in handy is diseases that are not currently detectable, at least until they're in their very later stages, like ovarian cancer, for example, or ones like Parkinson's, where they start developing so long before any symptoms show up. And just
or even Alzheimer's too.
Yeah, Alzheimer's.
Wow.
Whoa.
So, an amazing woman with an amazing talent. That's all I have for you on that subject today. And we will see you guys next week.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for listening to today's show. Be sure to subscribe. New episodes drop every Wednesday, and we love sharing this strange world with all of our listeners. If you would be so kind as to leave us a 5-star review, that would be great. It lets other lovers of the strange discover the show. You can reach out to us on social media by searching for Strange by Nature Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can send us an email as well. Our address is contact@strangebynaturepodcast.com. If you want more information about the show, you can also check out our website, which is strangebynaturepodcast.com. Until next week, get outside, stay curious, and embrace the strange.